Thank you so much for everybody tuning in tonight and keeps tuning in. I am watching later. I really appreciate you being here. I'm Vita King Blanchard from Rooted Arts, and this is episode 11, 11? 10, 10 of Actualizing Your Authentic Self. And And Philip is my guest tonight. He is usually moderating the chat, but tonight he's here with me. You wanna?
Woot woot. It's great to be here, Vita. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being back on.
It's a pleasure.
All right. So let's breathe into the space and just tune in that way. So go ahead and find the position that feels comfortable to you. And if it's comfortable, close your eyes and bring your attention to gently following your breath. Simply following it as it moves in and out. Notice anything in your mind, your body, your emotions that rises to the top, asking for your attention. Simply notice, acknowledge it, and then return your attention to your breath. And take one last breath. And as you're ready, open your eyes, returning to the space.
Love that.
Yeah, gosh. I'm so grateful for all of the practices that help me settle.
Amen.
Yeah. Um, so tonight, Philip and I are going to be sharing about our experiences uh, of recognizing ourselves as neurodivergent and what that has meant for each of us and what that journey has been like. We'd love for you to share questions or comments in the chat or comments on the video later. And yeah, so our first question tonight is, how did you become aware of your neurodivergence?
Shall I lead?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna piece it together for you because it came really slowly to me. I was 35. I'd assumed I had ADD, ADHD as it's now called. That's where it's at. And because my dad obviously has something like that going on. Our whole family is well known for one of the jokes is how many conversations are the Weber family having in a single room? And the answer is the number of Webers plus one because they're all talking to each other indistinctly and like someone shouting over the top right now.
Mm.
Um, and so like it was literally you would have to walk under all of the Webers talking at each other in like the kitchen, and it was like there were railways of communication that you just couldn't get between. And they'd be doing three conversations at once each, like doom, 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 totally separate. Book here, family stuff there, work this way. Like, okay, so like that's not proof of much, but when I read a book about ADHD, it became very obvious that my me, his dad, his brothers, were all had this kind of trait uh, constellation of like very little breaks, very intense brain power, very heavy target focus, and kind of low attention to the future, very present minded and aware, and often like to our detriment, falling off cliffs that you could have seen coming. So that I kind of lived with and absorbed that over my life. The other big neurodivergence I have is called aphantasia, and it is a lack of a mental cinema. In if They call it mind blindness sometimes, but it can include all of your senses, and it's basically no conscious recall of sensations in the past. So like I can't remember what things look like. Like my parents' faces are still have always been a blank. Um, I can get used to people, and I didn't even know I had this until I was 35. And so that was a big surprise. But looking back, it shapes a lot of the ways I do stuff. So
Sure.
that's kind of I found out from a clickbait article actually saying mind blindness, is it a thing? And I was like, wait, that sounds awkwardly familiar. And I read about it. I was like, oh my God. And I was faking it. I thought I did have the same faculties as everyone else. And but it appeared like they magically had more data than me. And have you ever seen the puzzles where it's like, look at this page, and you flip
Hmm.
it, and it's like, now tell me what's different on the next page?
Right. Yeah.
I I couldn't. I that was the first thing where I was like, I just can't do this, and I
Hmm.
don't know why.
Hmm.
And the other thing was in some tests, they give you like a bunch of pieces and they're like, rearrange these into a square. And that was horrifically hard for me. And other people just blew through it. And I was like, what is going on?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I learned.
Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, for me, it was very recent. Um, in 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 2020, I had COVID, um, and I got COVID early of 2020, so like March, in the beginning of March, before lockdown, and it ended up being long COVID.
Mm,
And there was a day where I was in an argument, and I had a very high temperature, and I was exhausted just from walking down the stairs because that's just how sick I was. And I was in the kitchen, I think to get myself tea, but I don't even remember what the conversation was about, just that it was super tense. And I got so frustrated because I couldn't get my words out, I couldn't communicate. I felt like I was being talked in circles, and I screamed and kicked the garbage can. And yeah, I mean, and this is, I was already studying for my master's in consciousness studies. I'd been practicing
hmm
mindfulness for, gosh, 40 years at that point for like my life, you know? And I had this huge reaction, and what it did was remind me of all of the really huge reactions that I used to have,
hmm
that were very common when I was little, and then progressively less common as I learned masking, right? As I learned different
Sure.
coping mechanisms, different self-calming, self-soothing practices,
hmm
and it took me on this exploration, um, because I realized in that moment that I was using my whole mind body spirit toolkit to survive, to self massage, to make teas, to make soothing balms, and that was so much of my day that all of my mindfulness practices, my daily practices, my improvement and growth edge practices had kind of fallen away. I didn't have the energy for it most days,
hmm
and made me. And then I started questioning, like, well, what are these practices really doing, and where are they in me, and which ones do I need to add back in? And so I have come to believe that I have ADHD, that I am slightly autistic and have, or that I'm on the autism spectrum and have ADHD. Um, and And I feel fine about it. Like, if, I feel like it's been helpful to think about myself that way and contextualize myself. And also, it makes me nervous talking about it because I don't have a diagnosis. And I like for things to be very clear, like, to be very sure about things.
That's strange, considering.
What?
Well, in a satirical way, that's odd.
Yeah. um, and also, like, remembering things, like, as a child, by the time I was 4, I was in therapy, like school therapy, outside of school therapy, and I was going to yoga with my grandma Vita. So I had lots of East and Western practices of mindful breathing, psychological self-soothing techniques, self-love practices, like all different kinds of things. And also, throughout my childhood, I felt isolated. I felt different from everyone else.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't understand why people seemed to, like, have this comprehension of what was in the room that I didn't get, because I'd be like in gifted and talented classes, and also people would like be having conversations that just like didn't mean weren't meaningful to me.
Yep.
um yeah. And do you have something to say? Kind of looks like you want to say something about that. Do you want to speak?
I'm really feeling it was very dislocating from the children around me.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think that tended towards it. The warped part of it was definitely arrogant isolationist, and I could hot rod a test, but I could not in the moment figure out a social interaction for the most part.
Yeah.
By rote, I started off learning by rote how to respond. Eventually, I could learn the nuance of what was supposed to be happening, but rarely could I find the words, and especially if it was not well-traveled ground.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it left me very awkwardly standing to the side most of the time.
Yeah, it's the things like I had, for me, I had these outsized outbursts anytime I was frustrated. Um, I would be up. It was really hard for me to sit in my seats, and I wanted to be moving. If I was in my seat, I was fidgeting. It was hard for me if there was any kind of sound elsewhere. Like, that is overstimulating for me still. If I'm somewhere and there's a ton of stuff going on around me, like, I feel comfortable now because I have enough inner resources for that.
Mm, mm.
But I probably can't keep track of the conversation very well.
Right. Sometimes I start saying polite nothings and I realize somehow I'd been overwhelmed or I was flooded with
Mhm,
stimulus.
mhm,
And I don't make direct eye contact nearly as much as other people. I prefer a comfortable not looking at you. And part of that, I retrospectively, having aphantasia, having no mental cinema means I have exactly one visual feed.
mhm,
So when I'm looking, I like am almost not thinking because I have to pay so much attention to what's coming in if I want to catch whatever's there live. Because I basically have to have eyes on the monitor mentally, or it
mhm.
just shoots past because there's no recall. So I sometimes look away because it uses up so much processing power, or I'll close my eyes and respond if it's really emotional because it takes so much of my like RAM, to use the computer like analogy, but like that short-term holding capacity is very limited for me, and I have to channel it to get a full-size thought out sometimes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, I don't know
about
why, but it made me think about like about my
ooh,
facial expressions. Like I know my entire
mm,
life I've gotten questions about why do you look so upset? Are you okay? Like what's happening? If I'm not paying attention, then my face looks unhappy. So, and and it's, and it's not because I am. It's just because my attention is not on what my face is doing.
yeah, and I have to do that intentionally. So many things where it's like, well, I got really good at it. And I know we call that masking. Right? When it's like, I mean, and so much is managing and masking, I think, can overlap. I think masking is where, in my mind, you try and present the normal, you try and meet the expectations of your public zone or whatever. More than that's the priority with masking, and that managing is the priority is optimizing or tuning or minimizing your uh, challenges based on whatever your circumstances.
Well, it's a part of, so I think we're moving into the second question that we have.
Oh.
Has that awareness changed anything for you? Right. But I think it's a part of communication. Like I know
Mm.
that I like one of the things that having this recognition has changed for me is that is like in this context. It used to really confuse me if people like were having a reaction to me that didn't feel related to what I was saying, you know, like because and their experience and I'm so grateful to have like close community that I've had many conversations about this with over the years, even before I had awareness that I probably had these diagnoses, like that like I was saying the right things, but my face was doing something completely different. and and so now now there's like a thing that happens in my brain that if I'm talking to someone and their presentation doesn't match what I how I expect to be received, then I will ask, am I making a weird expression right now? Because I mean the words I just said. And I also was thinking about this thing that's happening next week because my because that's where
Yeah,
my brain went. And so it's as soon as my focus is divided, I'm not thinking about what's happening on my face. It's just I'm just there. And and it's amazing to me that people I don't know how it works if your face just always looks happy. Is it like I mean, seems like effort. It's extra muscle usage,
it
right?
is. It is. You burn more calories smiling than frowning.
Mhm.
Well, so I am quite proud of my smile because I can't imagine what my face looks like if I'm not directly looking at a mirror.
Right.
But so it was some hit or miss try there when I was a kid, right? But my parents smile a lot, and frankly, smiling makes me feel better. And I kind of thought there was a time when I was like, smile or cry. I could see how you could take it either way, almost any
Mm.
time.
Hmm.
And I thought, I think you want to put good coins in the bank, like a good moment for me. And it's like when I look back and I see a huge pile of great moments, I go, pretty good life. And so I was like, let's prefer smiling, even though literally felt like no big, like I could go either way. No skin off my chest or whatever that expression's supposed to be. And
You know, off my nose, I think.
my nose, my back, maybe. Oh,
No
anyway.
skin off.
Yeah, all my skin intact. But
Yeah.
but not true, right? If I had just foolishly wandered down the path of preferring to cry, I think it would have wounded me
Yeah.
or made it much harder to turn. So I'm just glad I grew up in a sunny environment and I had a lot of explanation. I needed an incredible amount of tutorial explanation. I hated to do things, be the first person to do something without watching someone else do it
Mhm.
because their verbal explanations of how it should look
Makes no sense. Well,
couldn't
yeah.
couldn't even, right? Yeah, it did. Yeah, yeah, and exactly. Tying a knot, like, can you imagine someone tries to describe tying a knot to you and like they don't show you and you can't even follow their twisty words. It's like, no, just no. I can't, I literally can't. So a lot of performance like anxiety, you know?
Hmm.
Plus my parents would take me to craft shows. But I think that actually helped in a way. Like it was so viscerally close to other people. You'd be like, "Do you want this piece of pottery? Yay, nay. Do I have to do a check? Was it cash? I count the coins. Let me wrap it, hand it to you, and it's over." And I could do that. And I felt really confident. I'm like, wow, I can interact with the public without tripping sometimes. But I couldn't order a burger at McDonald's if my parents put me in front to order my own food to save my life. And here I am at a craft show and medieval get up selling people pottery. And so eventually I was like, you know what, we could do that all the time if we have to. And deciding, I think, to have a persona to deal was a big step up for me, even though I
Yeah.
didn't know why I needed it.
Yeah. For me, like I've been a lifelong student. Like I love to learn. I love to learn. And I didn't understand for a long time why it was so hard for me to do homework. Because if I was learning something new, I was genuinely interested in it. There was some like, okay, like I had no problem with tests ever. And there were some subjects where I was resistant to doing homework because I already knew it and it wasn't helping me to do it.
Hmm.
And I intellectually understood that it was part of my grade, so I wanted to do it because I wanted a really good grade. But weird things would happen. Like there's I was telling you the story the other day of like I was in eighth grade, I think, and in my advanced reading class, we had to fill out we had to fill out summaries for every book that we read. And and I loved that class because I could just read books and fill out a page and then I would put them into my desk, but I forgot to turn them in. So so my teacher kept marking me down for not doing my homework, but saw that I was reading books and my presentations were fine and whatever. And at the end of the year, I was cleaning out my desk and just throwing papers into the garbage because I didn't need them anymore. And my teacher came over and was like, Vita, what are you? And just starts going through the garbage and he's pulling out all of these homework forms that I had done and not turned in.
Uh,
And there were a lot of subjects that I just didn't do my homework for because if I because I just couldn't get myself to do it, right? It's like I've had what feels like obvious executive dysfunction. And then I know that if I have somebody in the room with me
hmm.
or on the phone with me, that it's no problem. That it keeps me on task. Best if they're not talking to me, if they're ignoring me, if they don't give me any reminders, because that can frustrate me. Just if they're there, right? So having like explored this in 2020, I'm like, oh right, I body doubles. I just need body doubles. And now and now when I'm gonna be doing work or something, like I create that for myself. I create a
Yes.
I create a body double and it's no problem. Like my friend Misty and I are gardening together over the phone 3 mornings a week. Because having that phone call means that during that hour and a half, I'm doing chores. Most of the time it's gardening, but unless, the schedule requires me to do a different chore, but it's always chores. and it's easy. It's no problem.
Hmm. Whereas, should you
Whereas,
leave me alone, I might not feed or clothe myself.
well,
If
yeah, I'm
uh,
I'm good. For me, those things
good,
are.
I forget meals all the time when I'm alone.
I will forget meals if I'm busy. Like even with the best of intentions. I had a meeting the other day with the director at Nimbus, which is the massage studio that I'm working at full
Hmm.
time. And and I was like, great, I'm running a little behind, so I have to eat during our meeting. I just need to go grab my bag of food, which is like dried fruits and stuff. Like it's my snack bag that I just carry with me, so I always have food.
Like
And
it.
yeah. and and I bring it up front and I'm looking at something on the computer and 10 minutes into it she looks at me and she's like, "Have you started eating yet?" And I was like, "Oh no." So I used to pull out like the dried mango and start chewing on it. So if something is taking my attention, then I will absolutely forget. Um, but if I'm home, it feels easy. Um, and I also, I mean, that's one of the things that is a practice that I've developed over the years
Mm.
because I'm constantly tuning into my somatic experience. Like if I feel uncomfortable or nervous, if I feel agitated, then I'll ask myself, like, have I eaten? Am I tired? Like what's happening? What am I feeling? It's kind of like, is your computer plugged in?
Yeah, yeah. No, like I find there's this thing I told people that I wasn't calculating in neurodivergence when I said it, but it was wrapped around it. And I'm like, I am a high maintenance person, but I pay most of the maintenance myself, so you don't
Mhm.
have to. And I thought that was pretty honest and sincere and forward, to be like, yo, like, and there's this hint of like, so if I fall down on managing myself, it's going to be ugly, sorry. Which is to me the root thing I need from other people is to be like, yo, I'm gonna fail spectacularly occasionally, and I'm sorry. But like when I run out of management, it's not pretty. And my dad was a great example when he was young of like it going off the rails all the time. It's very different. He was a solo producer entrepreneur right alongside my mom, who was in her own solo production mode. And when you're trying to transport pottery, make pottery by hand, so many things can go wrong, and it's very.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, the biggest brain flip from ADHD, the aphantasia is its own thing, but ADHD for me and my dad especially has this the moment kind of effect
Mm.
where the present and I believe he has aphantasia as well. And he didn't know till I told him about it. He's early 60s. Um, the two together are brutal because I can't imagine a future that's different. I can only see what's here.
Mm.
And then in my mind, the ADHD either has me laser focused, which means present, or thoughts of the future are sinking in, but I can't imagine what it'll look like, which does not increase my certainty and yearly comes off as heavy anxiety load.
Hmm.
Or the past is sneaking in, but I can't remember what it looked like either. And unless it's all good, it feels bad. Well, that's what comes to me. And, the brain is a problem-solving device, so I know it's negative enhancing, right? I always say 30% of all the negativity I feel is probably just amplification. That's just how the brain is more attuned to negative stuff because it has
I
to
mean,
watch out
our
for it.
our brains trend down the neural pathways that we've developed.
True, true. But, problem solving device, problem
The problem focus.
noting device. Yeah, and so problems first, right? Priorities. Like, okay, but so I find that they're just enhanced. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to scale that back a little in my mind. That's one of my big management techniques. But getting lost in the moment and not being able to think about the future and just panicking and scrambling in tighter and tighter circles. That was me and my dad. And like he showed me an example that I could try and figure out a better way to work with. And that helped so much even before I knew what was going on. I was
Mm.
like, I can manage this better than my dad. And I see him doing better over time. But like, I was like, I need to do a lot better because this is pretty powerful, tough stuff. So, yeah, sorry. That was my rant.
No, that's okay. You're good. You're good. Our third question is, what
Mm.
does it mean moving forward? Which I, right? I
You
think we.
start this one. I feel like tell me more. Tell me dig.
Well, I think I've kind of touched on it, but for me, what it means is choosing my practices, the practices that
Mm.
support me mindfully, and being really what it feels like for me is that I have more space because
Mm.
I now have something like I'm working at Nimbus and getting to know new people can be really challenging because there are things that like that people have to learn about me. Something that all of my friends, yeah, you included, have talked to me about at different times, has been like that, like my over directness. Like if my brain is focused on something else, I will say things that to me just seem like facts, and to the receivers of that, like without judgment, like just like I've observed something and I'm like, oh, this is a thing, right? We know it, and people will be like, ouch, and it doesn't even have to be about them, right? It can just
Yes.
it can just be like a thing. So that's something that I've run into being at this new work environment, because when I'm with clients, I am completely present with my clients and I'm just there for them. Um, if I am tired or distracted, if I feel like I'm having trouble, I might say that, like, I'm feeling tired, I'm a little slow today. Can you repeat that for me? Or something like that. But I'm just there for my clients. I'm focused on them and I'm doing my best to show up for them, which takes a lot of energy. So in between my sessions, like one in the time that I have when I'm resetting my room or doing the chores that come along with massage, which is namely
Mm.
laundry and cleaning, but like my brain is like I'm just not I'm not there for anyone else. So I'm not watching the way that I communicate to make it palatable.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it has created occasions where, so one of the stories, which this is all sorted now, but was I was standing by the hampers and I saw one of my coworkers come out of their room with a tray of cups, like cupping, like, you've gotten like the suction cups you use for
Yeah.
different
With like
techniques.
a little flame underneath or something or heat.
Some of them do function that way, but these are just grab, like
Oh,
they're just
okay.
suction cups. You use them for lymphatic or myofascial release. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She had
Mm.
a tray of tools, massage tools that were obviously dirty that she was taking out of her room. So in my mind, everything in her room was dirty. And I saw her because she was leaving with this dirty tray. And so I saw her put something in the linen cabinet and walk up the hall. And I was like, what could she have put in the linen cabinet? And my brain just started puzzling on it, like repeating it. Like, what would she have put in there? I can't. And it wasn't because I thought she had done anything wrong. It wasn't because of anything. There was no judgment. I just got stuck on it. And so she came up the hallway and I was like, what did you put in the linen cabinet? And she tried very much to be kind about it, but she had a reaction that was visible to me. And she was like, I put a clean face cradle cover in the linen cabinet that had gotten stuck in the clean sheets I just reset the room with. And then she walked up front and I was like, because I've seen this reaction from so many people over the years where something that I think is not a big deal is received in a way that is, and it's enough so that I know it's about my presentation and people feel judged, right? And then I spoke with her, and this is what it means for me. Like, I spoke with her and I was like, "Hey, I just want to say that I'm pretty sure I'm on the spectrum, and this is one of the things that happens for me is I'll get stuck on things I don't understand. And if I ask about them, it's not because I think you did something wrong. It's so that it's actually a tool that I have in place that I had before. I had developed before because of people coming to me and saying, "Gosh, Vita, ouch." um, and so I developed a tool of asking questions instead of making assumptions. And still, if I'm not paying attention to my delivery, then it comes at a cost.
Right? Well, and that's I always wanted friends that I did not have to disguise
Yes.
my reactions from.
Yes.
And, that led me to particularly flexible and patient friends in
Hmm.
general,
Yeah.
because like I was going to screw it up spectacularly at some
Right. At
point.
some point.
At some point,
Yeah.
and frankly, I realized it could come in any area of life. I
Hmm.
could emotional timeliness, really big problem, and logical context. I was just there's holes, and I'm gonna fall down about twice a year and just be totally wrong, take it absolutely the wrong way, or finally be at the end of my rope. Once I was just too tired, and it like especially if someone else is having a hard time, like if like say you're having a a conflict with your significant other, like if I don't have my management tools on peak, then I'm really likely to go off in some poor way.
Hmm.
And like thankfully never too terrible, and like emotional damage, sure, psychological damage, yes, unavoidably so, but like we all deal with it, and nothing physical, but like it and my dad was scary when he was mad. I'm scary when I'm mad. I haven't been that mad in decades, because it's a place I really learned to get away from and not let get there, cutting stuff off at the source. So I think what does it mean moving forward to me is primarily I try to overlap my strengths now. My biggest power move is realizing one, I need a particular amount of challenge, and I will go and get extra challenge if it's not enough, and I will die on the stake if it's too much,
Hmm.
right? And so I have to be very particular about the challenges I set up for myself,
Hmm.
and I need a fallback, like a hard video game, to just go to when I need a challenge, but no stakes.
Right.
Um, and I line up my strengths. I look at what have I done well? What have other people been like without me recognizing it, been like, wow, you're super good at this. And I'm like, what? That's normal. And so I know that with my condition come strengths, right? They're there. They're pros and cons. Even drugs, like side effects, there's just effects. And then
Hmm.
there's the effects that don't sell well.
Hmm.
And like, okay, like you feel like I got branded with this label, maybe, could, possible to feel. And sometimes I do, and many times I don't. But it comes with pros as well. There are side effects that are good. And I try to limit my focus and not burn myself out on one task, but switch a bit. I use timers on my phone to like let myself relax. It'd be like for an hour, for 2 hours, I don't even have to do anything. I can just wait it out if I feel like it, but I could take a nap,
Right.
and I'll go play games, and I'll do three things, and and then I'll start working an hour and a half in and be like half hour, whatever, didn't need it.
That's one of the things that works so well for me. Like if it's not in my phone, it doesn't exist. Like I have my days, my calendar is so filled in on my phone, including downtime, because I want to know that I have all of the kinds of restoration. I want to have rest, I want to have play, I want to have community time, and I need to see it to know that I have it so that I can be like, oh, all right. I have an hour of this left, and then I have 10 hours when I can do all kinds of things.
So important. And it
Yeah.
cuts the anxiety by like 75% for me to go, this is my designated fun time, and anxiety, you're out like an ejector seat. Psh, anxiety.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and that's fine, but like and it's that need to prepare. If I'm not prepared for a situation, I often fall on my face, and that makes me very terrified of situations that I haven't been in, and it's always changing this whole world, and so it's very tough to feel secure. So I need my designated rest time, and now I don't question the amount. It I found what fits. It
Yeah.
works for me and I do it. I take my Sundays and I barely do anything, but I do like one, two important things. But I need that Sunday and I just set it aside.
Yeah, for me it's Thursday. But yeah, and I hear like the what I hear in similar is just that it's created more space for you.
Yes.
It's like given you a more self-understanding and more space to honor what you need.
Yeah. And initially, I read about it. So I read books about these conditions, and it often I find I'm already doing stuff to
Mhm.
manage it. In ADHD's case, it was literally every single one of the 30 things they wrote in the back of the book I was already doing. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa. Um, but it helps to understand them as dynamics. Can tie two weird things in your life together in a way that helps you control both at once. And it helps me find that center to know what the dynamics of this condition are. And then to have that understanding for both aphantasia and ADHD has made much of the difference where I find more space because I don't have to manage such a broad problem as like I don't know what they're talking about ever when they say visual stuff. And now I'm like, oh, it's visual stuff. Can we skip that? Or could you draw it? If you, can we go to the room and you show me like in person what it might look like? And so like these things shortcut so much frustration and dead ends. And that is my path forward is finding the strengths that I do have and aligning them together into the same projects, but also like reading about pitfalls and just being like, now I know how to avoid that so much better now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Studying and creating more space. And yeah, I love it. Yeah,
Try. It's much nicer this way.
I agree. Um, so we're just about at the end here. And I feel pretty complete. You feel complete?
I do.
Good. So let's do the closing breath.
Hmm.
And so, find the position that feels comfortable for you right now. Close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath, following it as it moves in its natural rhythm. And notice what your inner space is like. Just as you breathe, notice how much space you have right now. And whether it's the same or different as it was in the beginning, if it's shifted at all. And then gently return your attention to your breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. And if you've watched this far, please like and subscribe. Um, And next week, I'll be back on with Shauna Hooker, who is an amazing person, a therapist, a minister, a master gardener. She's awesome. And we'll be talking about great stuff. And Philip will be with us in the chat.
Keeping it
So
keeping it real.
yeah, thanks so much for being here again, Philip. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. I enjoy every episode.
Okay, I'm gonna sign us off. I love me. I love you. I love us. I'll see you soon.
Peace.